Prosus. The local bourse is set to have a tough day amid lower global markets. Tencent, which influences the JSE via Naspers and Prosus, is in the red this morning. Simon Brown, JustOneLap founder, joins us now for analysis of the latest market developments. Simon, good morning. Give us an overview of how the markets open in early trade and what elements will likely influence trade today.
Morning, Hugo. You're spot on. We've opened red. The overall market down about 1.25%, but it really is the resource space where we're seeing most of the pressure. That index, the Resi 10, almost 2.5% lower. And that's in the back of commodities all being under pressure actually for much of this week. We've seen gold slipping. We've seen oil kind of stable, but the big one perhaps has been the PGMs, the platinum group metals. We've got palladium trading under 1,600 for the first time since before the pandemic started. We've got platinum trading below 1,000. It's been around there a bunch, but we're just seeing weakness in those commodities, and even some of the less thrilling ones. Coal is under a bit of pressure. We've also seen some pressure on iron ore and the like, and that's putting a bit of a drag on our market, which, as you said, came in with some weakness expected already from US and from Tencent overnight.
Some of the rand and local bonds showed little movement in reaction to the State of the Nation address. But will investors and ratings agencies buy into the plans outlined by the President?
I think, in a word, no. I think what they're going to look for is really two things. I mean, the President, in his State of the Nation address last night, really sets the agenda. And with respect, that's easy to do. It's the implementation. I think there are two things that markets, that rating agencies are really going to be looking out for. The budget coming through on the 22nd of this month, so just a week and a half away. And, the President, for example, last night mentioned some sort of tax rebate for solar. What are the details around that? Basic income grant. We want to see the details around that. That's going to be hugely important. And then I think the really big one is going to be the cabinet reshuffle rather. In a sense, last night was the story. The cabinet reshuffle will be the actual action on the ground, and we can get a good sense. So, as you mentioned, pretty much no response from bonds and the currency last night. The big deal is going to be that cabinet, which gets announced, and the budget in about 10 days' time.
Now, Basil Reid is frustrated in its efforts to emerge from business rescue due to delays by clients in returning construction guarantees for completed projects. Help us make sense of those developments.
Yeah, so this is actually a really tricky situation, although Basil Reid really is, in a sense, being thrown under the bus by some of their customers. When you go into business rescue, you're essentially restructuring the business, and there's two components to it, two parts of it, of many moving parts. One is, well, the company's owed some money. Let's go get it. And then, well, the company owes people money. Let's see how much we can pay. When a construction company does a project, and particularly the bigger projects, is they make a cash deposit with whoever they're doing the building for, in a sense, a guarantee that says we will finish on time, on spec, and if not, there's money that can be used either by the company or somebody else to correct those deficiencies. That money, if the project is delivered on time and on spec, should quite simply be returned. What Basil Reid's struggling with is getting the money back. Now, some of the documents were unclear whether there is perhaps a dispute, a reasonable dispute in terms of deadlines and quality of work, but some of it just seems to be, frankly, a little bit opportunistic, which saying, well, Basil Reid's in business rescue, maybe I don't need to give the money back. That's wrong. You absolutely do. If the work was done on time and at spec, you need to return the deposit.
And finally, Engen has announced plans to merge its African operations with those of UK-based Viva Energy to create one of the continent's largest energy distribution companies. Talk us through those developments and whether or not this deal will in any way affect market competition.
Yeah, so Viva is a British listed company. It's now been delisted. It was also on the JSE. And they've got a couple of really good brands through the continent, mostly focusing on Shell and Engen. And they've been expanding, but a lot of their focus, particularly into the rest of the continent, has been on that forecourt, where you can go and shop at almost anything these days. Get a coffee, get a sandwich. Heck, you can get an ingredient for dinner at the same time. The merging does reduce some competition. Now, they've got competing brands, but you've got to say, in an ideal world, you want as much as competition as possible. That said, if we take the South African example as one, we're probably, if anything, overtraded. We've got so many fuel stations in our market. In the rest of the continent, obviously, that's a less of a case, and I think there is some prospect for growth there, but it can potentially squeeze for consumers. Again, locally in South Africa, petrol price is regulated, so it's more about what that store experience is going to be than the actual cost of the petrol.
JustOneLap founder Simon Brown with the markets. Appreciate your time. Good morning.